Hello math kiddos and welcome to today's math lesson. Today we're just going to do a quick review of combining like terms and the properties that we discussed in yesterday's lesson, and then we're going to go on to one-step equations and how to solve them. Okay, the properties that we went over yesterday were commutative, associative, and the distributive. All right, the two that most kids get mixed up are commutative and associative. And commutative means that you are going to switch the order, and the associative means you're going to switch the groupings, which a lot of times means the parentheses are going to group different things together. All right, so let's look at this first one. Distributive, commutative, associative. So we have 6, 5, we've got parentheses, and then we've got a 30x. So how'd we get that 30x? Well, we took 6 times 5x, and we then took 6 times 2. This is the distributive property. Okay, it would be probably a good idea for you guys to pause this video, give maybe the first 8 problems a try here, and then resume the video and see how well you're doing and if you are doing okay with what we did on yesterday's lesson. All right, number 2 looks like they have an A first, and then this time they have the 9 plus 7 first and the A last. So they're switching the order. So this one is commutative. All right, number 3 goes 9, 3b, 8. This one has 3b first. Okay, so it's not in the exact same order. So it looks like they put these two at the end and now they're at the beginning. So this is the commutative property. All right, this one has k, 5k, and 8. All right, the 8 is still at the end, but what they're doing is pulling something out. This is the opposite of what the distributive property that we're used to seeing is. So this one is the distributive property. All right, looks like they didn't show us any associative properties on that grouping. All right, number 5, 7x plus 3x. Those are like terms. They both have x's, and so this is 10x. Number 7, the biggest thing that we have to pay attention to is that r. What is the coefficient or the number in front of the r that math people don't often write? And remember, that's a 1. So we're doing 13r minus 1r is 12r. All right, number 6 looks like they're both y's. So 17y plus 8y is going to be 25y. All right, number 8, that looks like a z, a z, a z. So 9 minus 8 is 1. 1 plus 2 is 3. So we have 3z. Okay, number 9. This is a z squared. That's a z. This is a z squared. So negative 2 plus 2 cancels out. So the only thing we're left with is a 4z. All right, number 10. We've got an r cubed and an r cubed, and that's an r squared. It's not the same, so only these first 2 are considered like terms. So 6r cubed plus 2r cubed is going to be 8r cubed minus r squared. Alrighty, so that should be a good review from yesterday. Now, what we're going into, our learning target. Our learning target is I can show my work steps to solve one-step equations by using either addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. So we're going to be solving one-step equations today. All right, and how we do that? What is an equation? An equation can be made up of 4 different items. You have to have a number and at least one variable, which is another way of saying letter, and operations, adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing, and you have to have an equal sign. So what they're saying is the left-hand side of the equal sign is the same as the right-hand side. So these two are equal. So what is this saying? 2 times what gives me 10. And most of you guys can just think through this and you know what it is just without even doing any math. But what we have to do today is be very, very disciplined in showing our work. So every problem, the problem will be copied down for you. You have to have a second and a third line. Your first line is going to have your work step, and then your second line is going to have your final answer. So what we need to do is show a step of work and then a final answer. So this one says 2 times x. What we have to do is divide both sides by 2. So that is me showing my work. I am dividing by 2. So 2 divided by 2 cancels out. So I have x equals, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. All right, what happens here is we have this equal sign and we have a balance, and this balance has to stay equal. So whatever we do to one side of the equation, we have to do to the other side. So whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we do the same thing on the other side. So when our directions say solve the equation, they want to know, like in number 1, what is x equal to? And in number 2, they want to know what would w be equal to. So we need to get the variable or the letter by itself. So we do that by undoing the operation. Okay, so a lot of times, the reason I showed you the scale is whatever we do on one side of the equal sign, we have to do on the other side. So a lot of times we'll have you write a line down so that you remember to do the same thing on both sides of this sign. So now what happens here is we have some number plus 9 is going to equal to 20. What is that number? So we need to undo the operation that they have here. They have a plus 9. So the opposite or the undoing of a plus 9 would be subtracting 9. Now keeping that balance in line, we have to do that to both sides of the equal sign. So I'm going to subtract 9. So what happens here is 9 minus 9, this is going to cancel out. So I left with x equals, and now 20 minus 9 is 11. So our final answer is x equals 11. All right, and the next one, number 2, draw a line down the equal sign. Remember, we have to do the same thing on both sides. This time they put the letter on the right. So what does this say? 9 plus w. 9. This 9 is a positive number. So the opposite of that is going to be to subtract 9. All right, now we're going to take 5 minus 9, and we get a negative 4. And the whole point of us doing that was so this 9 minus 9 is going to cancel out, and we're left with w. So w equals negative 4. All right, what do we have here? Negative 7 plus w equals 8. So negative 7 plus a number. Our goal is to get w by itself. So here's our equal sign, and whatever we do on one side, we have to do on the other side. So because this says a negative 7, the opposite of subtracting 7 or a negative 7 is adding 7. And we need to make sure that we put that plus 7 on both sides of that equal sign. So these are going to cancel out, and you have w equals, and 8 plus 7 is 15. All right, put the line down the middle. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you must do on the other side. So because this says x plus 4, we always focus on the side that has the letter. The number we need to move here is a 4, and because that says plus 4, we are going to subtract 4. So 12 minus 4 is 8 equals x, and these guys are going to cancel out. All right, what does this one say? Again, we have two sides of the equal sign, and this one says 7x. 7x means 7 times x. So the number that is by the x is the 7, and the opposite of multiplication, the opposite of 7 times x is divide. So this fraction bar means divide by 7, divide by 7. So 7 divided by 7, this becomes a 1. And remember, mathematicians are efficient, so they're not going to write 1x. They just write x. And now negative 21 divided by 7 is a negative 3. So x is negative 3. All right, over here we have negative 4 times x. The opposite of times is divide. So what we're going to do is divide. And what kind of number is that? That is a negative 4. So we're going to divide by a negative 4. 32 divided by a negative 4 is negative 8. And here, negative 4 divided by negative 4, that simplifies to just 1. So we would have 1x. And remember, mathematicians are efficient, so they don't write that 1, and we just say x is negative 8. All right, so now what does this one say? We have our fraction bar, or our equal sign going down. So now we have x divided by 2. What is the opposite of dividing? The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2. Remember, whatever you do on one side, you do on the other side. So these 2's are going to cancel, and you're left with x equals, and 5 times 2 is 10. All right, number 8. They move the x over onto the right-hand side, but this says x divided by 6. Now, what is the opposite of dividing? The opposite of dividing is multiplying. So we are going to multiply both sides by 6. So 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18. And over here, 6 on top, 6 on the bottom, they cancel. So we have a 1x, and we're going to just write x. All right, now the hard ones. Right here, when we have a fraction in front. So what we're going to do is we are going to, if I kind of erased this 3 or 4 and thought that that wasn't there, how do I get rid of the 3? Is I would divide both sides by 3. But then we have to also get rid of this 4. So what does this mean is when we have this 4, is this we're dividing by 4, where the opposite of dividing by 4 is multiplying by 4. So what we end up doing is multiplying by the reciprocal. So we multiply by what we math terms call is the reciprocal, and that's when you flip the fraction. So if we have the fraction 3/4, the reciprocal is 4/3. So you see how I ended up multiplying by 4/3. These 3's cancel, the 4's cancel, and we have x equals. Now we're going to take 12 and divide by 3 and get 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. So when you have a fraction, you multiply by the reciprocal. So let's look at number 10. When we draw our line down, we have this fraction 2/5. So when we have a fraction in front, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal. And what is the reciprocal of 2/5? We flip that, and that becomes 5/2. So remember, whatever you do on one side, multiply by 5/2. You have to multiply the other side by 5/2. Okay, so 10, 2 goes into 20, 10 times, and now we take 5 times 10 and get 50. Over here, 5 on top cancels with the 5 on the bottom, and the 2's cancel, and we end up with x equals 50. Okay, so when you have a fraction, remember you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. All right, good luck on your homework for today.